Hi, I am Mrs. Aguilar, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to do a 3D cut so that you can produce one in class. You should have already learned how to do color cuts, and these are cuts that are made just from cream color. The difference with a 3D cut is that you're actually going to use material that makes it stick out from the skin. And today we are going to use nose and scar wax. Now, of course, you always want to start out with clean hands. So you need to wash your hands first and a clean workspace and clean materials. So we're going to look right now at the materials that we're going to use. Most of the materials we're going to use are in the BenEye 3D Effects Kit. And we're going to use the stipple sponges, the nose and scar wax, the stage blood, the liquid latex, the spirit gum, and of course the spirit gum remover, very important, the brush, and your 3D effects wheel. And then also, if you have these, or if your teacher has these, I also like the bruise wheel that BenEye has. Cinema Secrets has a very nice FX or gel blood. That's probably my favorite kind of blood. And then some extra tools for blending and for making our 3D effect. I always keep some baby wipes on hand and a paper towel. So those are the materials we're going to use. So if you can get those out or write them down so that you can be ready for tomorrow. So step one for doing a 3D cut is to determine where you're going to put it on your body or on your model. Usually the rule is that you want to pick a decently stationary part of the body. If you put it on the wrist, for instance, or right around the mouth, an area that moves quite a bit, it'll actually tear apart the effect. So it won't look like a good cut anymore. So like cheekbone, arm is a great place to start learning because it's very stationary. So that's the first thing you want to do, is to determine where on your model that you're going to put the effect. So step two, we are going to use our nose and scar wax, which is a putty that can look like skin. All right, so I am going to take out an amount of nose and scar wax. And for this effect, I'm going to turn it into a worm. I'm going to make a worm. And you remember when you used to play with Play-Doh, and you would just rub your hands together like this, and you would make a worm. And so that's what I'm going to do right here. And I am going to make, there's my lovely worm. There are people who have trouble using the material, the nose and scar wax. And so some different things that you can do is, after you wash your hands, is to rub lotion on them. Some people put powder on them, and some people actually even put a couple of drops of the spirit gum remover. Not very much, because then it won't stick. But it is supposed to be a sticky material, so it's supposed to stick a little. But if you're finding that maybe it's old or it's been in the sun too long and it is sticking to your hands more than to each other, try some different things to help that situation out. Okay, but that's our worm, and that is step two. We are going to now figure out where we're going to place that worm, where we're going to place our cut. I'm going to put mine right here. It's a nice stationary part of my body, and I can work on it here. All right, so once I've done that, I am going to smash my worm. I know it sounds kind of mean, but I am going to just flatten out this lovely worm that I have created. And I'm just going to squish it with my fingers. Okay, so now I have a flatworm. Okay, and there we go. There is my flatworm. Lovely. Spirit gum is skin glue. It has a little applicator just like fingernail polish. So what I'm going to do is I am going to paint spirit gum onto my flatworm. Okay, all the way onto my flatworm. And I'm going to place this on my body where I'm going to put the cut. Now I'm going to tell you a secret that is one of the most important things I have learned. And that is, spirit gum is like any other glue. Glue only holds when it's dry. It doesn't hold when it's wet. So right now it's not going to stay. You're going to say, Mrs. A, it's not staying. And you're right, because it's wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off my worm. And I'm going to take my finger and I am going to pat the spirit gum on my arm until it gets tacky or sticky. And I'm not going to put the worm on until that happens. So I'm going to pat, 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 pat. You hear me saying that a lot. Until it gets sticky, my skin actually starts coming up with the glue, and then I'm going to put my worm back on. And now it's going to stick because the glue or the spirit gum is right. And I'm going to stick that on. And is we are going to blend this into our skin. Right now it doesn't look good. It looks like it's just this flatworm sticking on my skin. We want it to look like it is blended in the skin. I always think about it like in your geography class when you talked about mountain ranges and you would draw mountain ranges on a map. They always started at ground level and then went up and then went back down. So they had a part in the middle that was very high, but then it blended on both sides into like the valley floor. So we're going to do the same thing. You can use several different instruments to do this. You need to find the one that works best for you. I like to use my fingernails. And so what I'm going to do, if you can get real close, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fingernail and I'm going to blend the edges of my flatworm into my skin. Now, you don't have to use your fingernail. I have people who love to use the finger pads of their skin. I have people in my class who like to use a tool of some kind to do this. You just need to find which one works best for you. And like I said, for me, it is my fingernail, but you find what works best for you. There's no right answer on doing this. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to blend this. And I'm going to make sure that the edges are nice and flush with my skin. If there's any excess, I can just peel it off. Okay, so as you can see, that's nice and smooth. Around here, it looks like it's just coming right out of my arm. But in the middle, this is important, in the middle, it's still nice and tall, like a mountain range. So if you can see that. That's important. You don't want to blend it so much that there's not that mountain range in the middle, but you also want to make sure it looks like it blends into your skin. During this step, there's a lot of things that you can do to make sure it's nice and secure. There are several things. Some of my students like to take some spirit gum and just go over the edges. Some people like to use the liquid latex, which just produces another layer of skin, like surgical gloves. It takes a little while to dry, but if you go from the mountain down, it'll actually dry into a nice little layer of skin, and it's translucent, so it'll turn the color of your skin. You want to make sure it's a nice thin layer. The thicker it is, the longer it takes to dry, and the less realistic it looks. So you want to do a nice thin layer. But as this dries, it'll be a nice extra layer of skin to make sure it is secure. That takes a little while to dry, but it'll look really good when it does. Just a note about the color of the nose and scar wax. Some of you may say that this is not the right color for your skin. They do make a dark brown also, but there are people that are right in between, that it doesn't quite look exactly right. But I do need to tell you that the effect that we're going to do is quite a deep cut, or a cut that had blunt force trauma with it. So the skin around the cut would actually blanch. Blanch is another word for turning white because all the blood is draining from this area. So if it is lighter than your skin, it actually makes it look more realistic.